Good evening, people. Welcome to this little bit of something different, shall we say. Something I've never really talked about anywhere, and that is books. Reading books. I don't own any books. I've never really owned any books. I've never been a big reader. My mother is a huge reader. She reads every day. Any spare moment she gets, she reads whatever book she's got on the go. Me, I've never been a book person. When I was younger, it was all about video games and being outside. Then as I got older, it turned into film and turned into what this is. But I've never really been into books. I think it has something to do with school. It's like in school, primary school and secondary school, in an English class, whatever, once a week, you read a book. In primary school, it's like Roald Dahl, Enid Blyton. Then you move into the secondary school, you're a teenager, you're reading Shakespeare and all that kind of stuff. But English class, you had to read out loud. Like the whole class would take it in turns to read, say, a chapter. And the teacher never forgot. Like if it didn't get round to you, the teacher would mark it down and then you start the next lesson and she'd go, your go. And I hated that because I was stuttering and stammering all over the place and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. But now I've decided to take advantage of my local library, it's a small library, it's a small town, and a lot of the times when you order books online, you go and pick them up, but you order them online, they're always at other libraries that are bigger than yours and they get first choice kind of stuff. But I'm trying to read more books and I'm trying to avoid books that have been made into films, because everyone knows the book is better than the film. Most of the time the book will be better than the film. Now I don't want to read a book that I've seen the film to, because then I might think the book is better and I watch the film and I think I don't like this film as much as I used to, like Blade Runner. No, I love Blade Runner, but if I read the book, what was it? Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I think that's what I did. If I read that and then watch Blade Runner, I think, well, this is nothing like the book. I'm not so keen on it anymore. Like The Martian. I watched The Martian. Loved it. Saw it in a cinema. Read the book, watched the film. This film isn't quite as fun as I remember it being. Now I've read the book. So I'm trying to avoid that if I can. So over the last 2 months or so, I've started getting books out from the library. I'm not a quick reader. I read just before bed. I'll read, if I have time in the day, I'll read a chapter or two. But I'm not a quick reader. I'm not. Probably take 2 or 3 times as long as somebody else might take. But I get there in the end. But since September up to now, I've read 3 books. So I'll just talk about them briefly. I read The Time Machine, H.G. Wells. I've never seen anything Time Machine on TV. I haven't seen the 2 films or any TV stuff or anything. So when I'm reading it, I'm thinking, what does this time machine look like? Because if I see the film first and I'll read it, my mind will be going, well, that time machine didn't look anything like what I thought it would, and all that business. And then he goes into the year 800,000. I'm thinking, what are these Morlocks? I imagine Morlocks to be little gorilla type things, about this big with sharp white teeth and sharp white claws. He goes to this year and just what is the Earth like? And I highly enjoyed that book. Whereas now I probably won't ever seek out a film or TV adaptation to watch. But The Time Machine, it was a thin book. It really was thin. But I enjoyed it. I give it a thumbs up type of a film. That's going to be a habit to break. A thumbs up kind of a book. Then after that, I read, breaking my thing that I just said, I read War of the Worlds. Now, I've seen most of the film adaptations, most of the TV adaptations of War of the Worlds. But when I was reading the book, none of that imagery came to mind, what I'd seen in the films. Now, maybe that's because there's all these different ones, so maybe that scattered my brain. Like, if there's only one adaptation of the book, that's all you have. But when there's been 4 or 5, maybe other adaptations of the book, I don't know, that's how my brain works. That's my reason for not thinking of Tom Cruise or thinking of the flying ships in the 50s film. But that was one hell of a book. It was exciting when a tripod would appear and then another tripod would appear. And I've listened to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, narrated by Richard Burton. I wasn't even thinking of that either, apart from when they made their noise. And it's written, and I was saying it in my head like in that, the musical version. But that was a hell of a book. I didn't want that to end. I really didn't. Again, far better than anything I've seen on screen. So I would give that film 2 thumbs up. Because that was a fantastic book. Then, the third one I read, I just finished it last week. Treasure Island. The only thing, has Treasure Island been adapted into anything? I don't know if it has, but the only one I can think of is Treasure Planet, the Disney one, when it's Treasure Island in space. I don't remember much of that. But, you've got Jim Hawkins, you've got the Jolly Roger, they all go to Treasure Island looking for this treasure. And I liked it, but a lot of the dialogue was boat speak, and I don't speak boat. And pirate talk. It's hard to get my head around to read in a fluent manner. And it's kind of an anticlimax when we were, on the island towards the end. A little bit of an anticlimax. Wasn't as swashbuckling, adventurous as I was led to believe. Everyone knows Treasure Island, one of the great adventure stories ever written. But that hype, it just fell flat. But I still give that a thumbs up. It would still be a thumbs up for me. Right now, I've just started this. James Herbert's The Fog. And me and my mother had a disagreement with this because she mentioned The Fog. And then I mentioned John Carpenter's The Fog. Do I have The Fog here? There you go. John Carpenter's The Fog. And we had a disagreement that they were the same film. This, to my knowledge, had never been adapted into a film. That didn't come from a book. So we had quite a discussion about which fog we were talking about. They're very different. If this has been adapted into a screen adaptation, then I've never seen anything of it. But I know what it's about because my mother told me. She said it's about fog that comes out and does something to people. Well, I read 3 chapters last night, and so far we've had a bunch of cows turn on their farmer. We've had a vicar get up to his pulpit and then piss on his congregation. And we've had a poacher go around shooting someone in the head and shooting hands off. When I was reading that last night, I was thinking, shit, I didn't expect that to happen. But so far, so good. So, yeah, so those 3 books that I've read, 3 books in a space of like 2 months, is quite impressive for me. So, something a little bit different. A little bit of variation instead of being all films. I may do this when I read another 3. I may forget all about it. I may go off reading altogether. But it's nice to do something different. Nice to just sit down, quiet, read a book. So there you go. And that is it. I'm off to have a drink. Good night, people.